May 15th, 2024 meeting of the Roxbury or Montpelier-Roxbury Board of School Directors. First order of business is public comment. The public comment is an opportunity for the public to give input to the board. We not react in real time, but we are listening and we do take note of it. It's very important to our decision making, and we try to address concerns to the extent we can. Also, if you are uncomfortable speaking or the timing does not work, you can always submit any sort of questions or input to the board at schoolboard@mpsvt.org. So with that note, do we have any public comment for starting in the room?
I have a question, Jim. Is this the time that prospective student candidates to the board would address the board or not?
We have that on at 6:45, so which may come quicker than that if that comes quickly, or if public comment and consent order short. And also, thanks for reminding, since we're at the beginning of the meeting, we do want to add an executive session to choose the additional student rep for next year. My understanding is we're only since Alara is graduating and Miriam is staying on. Thank you, Miriam. We are just adding one other. And I believe we have three candidates, and thank you everyone who stepped up, but we will get to that shortly. So it doesn't look like anyone in the room, anyone online, and since the only people I see online are either Orca or board members.
We have one person who's
yeah, looks like no public comment. Just go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is where the board approves a variety of kind of pro forma things that do not require discussion. It's really kind of a way for us to get a lot of business done quickly. Things such as previous minutes, agendas, and the approval of contracts and hires. Do I have a motion to approve this meeting's consent agenda?
Move.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussions or questions about the consent agenda?
Fine.
Yes.
Thank you to the Roxbury Transition Committee for taking such good notes. And then the document, the public engagement and relationship map is also really helpful for people like me who couldn't be there. So I appreciate it.
Good. Yeah, no, thank you. And just thank you to the Roxbury Transition Committee in general. I know they're doing a lot of work and it's been busy and hard. So yes. Thank you, everyone. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Sounded like a late aye from Tim. Yeah. All right, great. So we are, as I alluded to before, Alara is graduating in about a month.
How many days, Alara?
I know.
I think like 38 days, maybe less.
Oh,
no, 29.
Less?
Wait a second, it's 29.
29.
Yeah, sorry. I've kind of been losing track of time.
It's all good.
No, and I know from my own senior that the days are being counted down. But congratulations. But as such, Alara will be, I believe you're going to Smith next year, right? Yes, Alara will be going to Smith next year and will be stepping off of the board. Congratulations again. So we and Miriam, very thankfully, will be staying with us. And so we need to appoint a new student rep to replace Alara. And my belief is we have 3 candidates. So if any or all of you would like to speak to the board.
We do have, so there's a student presentation prior to from Alara and Miriam.
Oh, so that was the,
Yeah, the board, I mean,
I
we
thought
can,
that was the
we can
presentation.
switch Peggy, no, we can switch Peggy Sue and that around and that's under board discussion.
okay.
You can do it however order you want. I will say, just, oh, Miriam is eating over there still,
I will.
so.
Yeah, why don't we switch it around just because we have folks here and then we can get to the special ed update and and Miriam's presentation. We can let her fuel up first. Whoever wants to come up, we got your letters, all of which were great. So if you want to come up and introduce yourself, and the board may have a few questions, but please feel free to do so. And the chair is not as scary as it looks. But yeah, just please feel free to step up and say hi and why don't we go
You're much nicer than I am. Amani, the chair is yours. Let's go.
I was gonna say go by or
I feel singled out. Thank you everyone for the opportunity to be here today. I am getting over a cold, sorry. One of my goals, if I were to be given this position, is I want to work towards finding more ways for all students to have reasons to come to school and to enjoy attending classes, and whether that's, having a teacher they want to go catch up with that day, or having a class that they know they're looking forward to. I just would like to see a lot more students here enjoying being here. I think that a strong student representative on the board would be connected with the community and involved in extracurricular activities, and a good listener, punctual to the meetings and open to hearing other perspectives. And I think that I bring those qualities and I contribute in an effective and helpful way. And I would be honored to be selected. And I understand that this is definitely a time commitment. And I have, heard from other people what it could be like. And I'm excited. And I think that I really enjoy what the board has discussed in the past. And I appreciate the hard work they do to keep this community running.
thank you. Questions for Amani?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we put it in the description, and I was gonna ask also, but then that would sound like we're quizzing you on the.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Any other questions for Amani, or can we let her off the stand? Great. Who wants? Yes, thank you for going first. Or thank you for being voluntold to go first. Who do we have next?
Sam or Jacob?
Sam or Jacob?
Sam's ready.
Hello, my name is Sam Boyce, and I'm a sophomore here at Montpelier High School. I'm a bit nervous, but please stay with me. I'm here today because, as you know, I want to be considered for the open student seat at the school board. And I'm very excited to be considered for this seat because it offers me a way to make real changes here at the high school. and really all over the district. I want this experience because of what it will mean for me to experience what it's like to be here in a more professional setting and get more used to, even though this is a more chill experience than other professional places. But it'll still give me an opportunity to be a part of that and to learn. I do also know that it's a time commitment. I read basically the whole doc. Thank you for listening, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sam. Any questions for Sam? Sounds like you know about the time commitment as well.
Sam, you said you're a sophomore.
Yes.
Excellent. Any? No. Yeah, no, thank you, Sam. And Jacob?
Hi, my name is Jacob Kaufman-Ilstrup. Like you probably know that. I am really excited that I was considered for this position. Like everyone else, I am aware of the time commitment. I'm a freshman here, and I think I'm interested in this because I am interested in going into education. And I'm just curious about what goes on like behind the scenes, how decisions are made for the school district. And I also just think it's interesting. I do 2 extracurriculars here and 1 through the rec center, taekwondo, like what was in my letter. And I think that it would be beneficial for me in the future, especially if I do want to go into education, to know what goes on behind the scenes and how decisions are made. Yeah.
Excellent. Questions for Jacob?
How long is the term that they're?
It's generally been a year.
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think technically speaking, I have.
Yes, I think we decided to try to get 2 years with a
Yeah,
Continuity.
overlaps.
little overlap, if possible.
Peer mentorship.
Yes.
Fun. Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jacob. Excellent. Well, thank you. If you guys you are very welcome to stick around and watch the meeting. Otherwise, if you want to recapture your night,
It won't be held against you.
it won't be held against you, and we will let you know after the meeting's over.
So we'll have to go into
Executive
executive
session,
session
yeah.
at the end of this meeting,
Yeah.
make the decision, then
Come back.
and then I guess I can email folks if email works afterwards. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So now we're on to the actual student presentation. Let's see, Miranda's still.
I think Laura's got the lead.
I can present.
Great.
Okay, this is our student presentation. We just have some updates with what's happening at school this month. On the next slide, there are some pictures. On May 25th, the 6th annual Race and Rally Against Racism is going to be held at the State House lawn. It's a student organized and run event to raise funds for an organization that works in social justice. And there are going to be student performers and speakers, as well as student run workshops, but also workshops from like tables with community members. Last Friday, for the 3rd year in a row, the acting class went to UES.
and we performed some children's theater for them. And it was a really cool experience because I actually got to write and direct the show that we put on as well as be in it. And it's just, it was really heartwarming to like have a lot of the kids come up and be like, this is my favorite day of the year. And it's a great show. And it's just a great way to be involved with the community and introduce theater at a young age, which is so important. And then also over the weekend, there was the All-State Music Festival, and those are some students and faculty members there. And then on the next slide, this Friday, we're having our Pizza for the People event, which is an all-school event where we typically go outside, we eat pizza, and we have student performers, and there are club tables, and kids can learn about what's going on with clubs next year. And it's one of those special fun MHS community events. The Rally for the Planet is on May 23rd, and as well as the MHS Pops concert with chorus, orchestra, and band performing some popular songs. And then we have been working on some AP exams for the past 2 weeks, and spring sports are still going strong. There have been a lot of wins over the last few weeks. And then on our next slide, Miriam and I held our first school board advisory group meeting where we invited student representatives from social justice clubs and affinity spaces to give us their thoughts and feedback on how the board can support them. They all agreed that like, yeah, that we need some support, even if they couldn't think of an example at the moment. We plan on holding regular meetings, so we'll have more feedback. Club Action suggested continuing to improve curriculums and educate students on social justice and issues of race. And the Conversation, which is our club that works on dismantling rape culture within the school, suggested providing an anonymous helpline within the school for students, because a lot of organizations have anonymous helplines or just a way to anonymously ask for help or report an incident, but we don't have that within the school, which would the representative felt like having that would give students an opportunity to speak out more. And then as well as receiving help in funding their future consent workshops. The senior class does a consent workshop with a speaker from New York, and the Conversation on their own raised, I think it was about $4,000 through like bake sales and donations, but it was really hard, and they said that it might not be feasible to do it year after year. But it's basically a workshop that prepares seniors to relearn our consent lessons that we learned as freshmen now as seniors before we go to college, and how we can apply that moving forward. And yeah, those are our updates.
So, anything to add, Miriam, or any other questions? No.
I was drowning in AP exams, and so was Alara, and somehow she was the one who pulled this off. So I appreciate you for this,
I
Alara.
definitely know the exam time.
You are welcome to say I'm drowning in the exams and I don't want to do a presentation in the future, just for your. Yep.
That was great, Laura. Thank you.
Questions?
Who's performing at the Race Against Racism? Is there a band?
Jacob knows.
Yeah, okay.
There's, like, student performers. I don't remember who exactly, but there is one. There's a couple like adult speaking, like HEBT, who played last year is playing again. I know our president of Action is singing.
Is Dia playing?
Which,
Yeah.
Beta is doing speech. And I think there's a few other people. So.
Nice.
Awesome.
Question for Laura. On the conversation group, had the helpline idea. And I'm wondering, how do you envision that? Like who would be answering the helpline and what medium would it be? Like phone, email, or something else?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think like it's an actual like phone helpline. I think I can't really speak for the conversation, so it would be, I think, more productive if in our second meeting we asked them what that would look like. But for me as a student, I think either like an email or like a Google form would work that like doesn't or like a Google form that doesn't record your email. Just something, I know that also like talking can be really like anxiety inducing for a lot of students, like talking about those issues. So those are just my ideas, but I would like to speak to the conversation again about that idea. But
Thanks.
also I was like, I don't know, I guess I have a question too, because I know that like educators are mandated reporters. So would there be some like legal thing about keeping that like resource anonymous where, I don't know. That's just what I thought of at first.
Laura, that's really perceptive. We have a reporting form under HHB on our website, which that just tells me that we need to publicize that a little bit more, and tie it to the sexual nature that the conversation is talking about, because that's not HHB necessarily. So that's just good information for us to know that students didn't know that that was on our website. As far as the anonymous piece, if it's anonymous, we can't report anything because we don't have a person to attach it to. So kids really shouldn't be worried about that. But you're right in the mandated reporter piece that if we do know, we do need to report that.
Other questions for Laura and Miriam? No, thanks again for the great presentation. Yeah, these are super helpful and really appreciate the work, especially when you have a lot going on to wrap up the year, including AP and other exams. So now hear from Peggy Sue, special education professional learning update, which I think we're all very excited and interested to hear. So thank you for coming.
Jeez. I appreciate the excitement. All right. I'm assuming that, oh, are you?
This is in response to, just to make sure the board's really clear. This is in response to the special education audit that we had done last year. And what was asked of Peggy Sue from Jim and Mia was just a kind of reflection on what we've done this so far and what we're looking forward to do. So it's not data, just to keep in mind.
Okay. All right. You want to switch the first slide? I have it here because I don't have my readers on. Okay, so yes, this just some context for the information I'm going to share. So last year we collaborated with the Ability Challenge to complete an assessment about the experience of students with disabilities in our district. So the needs assessment, which is linked, looked at the district as a whole, not just at the special ed department, because students with disabilities are part of our district, right? So that we should be looking at all their experiences and not just the special education part. One of the things that I think is important to highlight is that traditionally school departments have worked in silos, but we continue to work to become more interdependent. And I cannot take credit for all that is in this presentation. It is definitely the work and intentional collaboration of folks in central office, the building administrators, the faculty and staff in service to our students and their families. And also this is not an exhaustive list of everything that's happening, but just a chance to share some of the highlights. So there may be there is lots of things happening that may not be here. And I am not the expert on everything that is here. So I may not be able to answer in-depth questions about curriculum, for example. You'll have to ask Mike in a couple of weeks if you have questions about that. Okay, so the way that the Ability Challenge wrote their report is that they looked at 5 different elements of our district and they made recommendations. And so what I've done is I've copied those recommendations into this and then have some highlights of some of the aligned work that we're doing and some of the future planning that we have. One of the things that again, thinking about the interdependency is these are not elements in isolation. So there are things that might be listed, for example, under element 1 that are also actually working for the recommendations for other elements as well. So I tried not to repeat, but there might be a little repeat, but just know that, again, it all works together. So the first element that they looked at was the culture of collaboration and inclusion. And the recommendations in the report talked about developing an action plan that's tied to our vision for inclusion, working with school leaders and creating a culture of collaboration from the top. So starting with how are we really collaborating as an administrative team, and then being able to model that and work that with the faculty in our buildings and staff. To provide training to staff about understanding and mitigating bias, and engaging teachers in discussion about high quality collaboration, so that we can improve our co-planning and ultimately create better learning experiences for all of our students. So some of the work that we have been doing that's ongoing, we have weekly collaborative team meetings at all of the schools that are looking at student data together. Our admin team has a problems of practice protocol that we do where administrators bring challenges they're facing, problems they're trying to figure out, something that they just need more input on. And there's a whole process for the other administrators to listen and then ask questions to get people to think deeper about it and try to help the administrator get to a place where they come up with some ideas they want to try. So we've been using that protocol. We are doing work in our admin teams around understanding and mitigating biases. We have a weekly staff communication that we're sending out that's focusing on the different areas of our vision. So academics, social emotional learning, chronic absenteeism, special education, multilingual learners. I believe that's now, and you get those in the board packets, I think, the roots and wings. And we all got to create our own little people, which was that's fun to look at. Mike is taking charge and leading on developing our new continuous improvement plan that is required by the state. And so we've been working on that as a district and then in the schools. Our multilingual teachers have been doing professional learning with staff and faculty, particularly as we welcome new families to the community, to make sure that we are welcoming them and trying to work with them to understand what their needs are and their celebrations and what they can bring and what we can give them. So the ML teachers have been doing some work with that. We have coaches that work with faculty around academics and social emotional learning. And we have had a number of faculty offer professional learning classes through Southern New Hampshire University this year that have been really successful. So looking at what expertise we have within the district and then providing people the opportunity to take classes that their colleagues are teaching. And that has been something that's gone really well. Looking ahead, we need to implement the CIP. That's going to be an important one. We are looking to do some professional learning around co-planning and co-teaching. We are looking to have regularly scheduled meetings between special educators, interventionists, and SEL teams to look at data and to maximize how we're using our resources. So we are doing that right now, but not as a whole team. So we're talking about next year scheduling the UES special ed department to meet with the UES interventionists and the SEL interventionists there all at the same time so that we can really make sure that we are using our resources in the best way we can. Looking to do more professional learning around high quality instruction and keep those classes going that the faculty have been facilitating. We are looking to do bias training with staff and faculty, and we have to develop what's called the Allow Plan, which looks at our learning opportunities for our multilingual learners. The last one in the district was from 2008. So in the next year, we have to have that drafted by the end of the year. So there's a whole process that I will be looking and maybe come here at some point and ask y'all for some input around it as we get through that draft. So there are like 10 different components that we will be looking at with those learners in mind specifically. All right, next. Thank you. All right. The second element was around student-centered curriculum and instruction, and this is all Mike, so I'm going to read you what he wrote here, but I said, please tell me. So the recommendations were around building on the priority standards to build out curriculum maps and aligning our priority standards with the scope and sequence, providing educators with professional learning on data-driven instruction, and developing a district calendar to look at our data analysis cycles and make sure that they align with our common assessment schedules. So some of the work that's been happening, teams are creating common formative assessments and planning interventions across teams. This has been really exciting to see this year. We are working on vertically aligning through content areas K-12. We have a cohort of professional learning. We were just there today, specific to math and literacy intervention. And we have special educators, tier 1 educators and interventionists all there, as well as administrators. The local assessment plan is providing timely and actionable data across all the schools. And we are examining our practices as part of our regular work with curriculum. Looking ahead, we are looking to target and increase our professional learning opportunities for staff, continue with the instructional coaching that's happening, continue to build our PLC structures and collaborative team times across the schools. The Guiding Coalition leadership will continue to focus on student learning and success. We've seen really positive results with the Guiding Coalition and the collaborative team structures this year. Continuing to do that vertical alignment across content areas, and then continue to refine the proficiency skills and standard-based learning. The third element is the shared understanding of and practices for special education. So the recommendations from the Ability Challenge were foundational training on special ed laws and mandates for the leadership team here. Providing educators with professional learning on understanding disabilities and their impact and how to support diverse learners in the classroom. Develop clear expectations for developing quality IEP documents and provide staff training on that. And engage with all staff members who support students with disabilities to understand their roles and responsibilities. Some of the work that we've done, the administrators engaged in a year-long workshops last school year in preparation for the changes under Act 173. This summer, we did LEA training for the administrators. In the fall, the special educators and speech language pathologists did a workshop with the Ability Challenge around effective IEP writing. We have targeted ongoing professional learning opportunities for our instructional assistants and our behavior techs. We created a special education professionals handbook, so that we created that last summer to continue to align our practices and make sure that we're doing the same things across schools. During in-service, we did some learning around what the teacher's role in special education is. Special educators have been trained about the changes under Act 173. We piloted, as part of the pilot with the Panorama data system this year, we piloted whether or not it made sense to use that for special education progress monitoring. We are in the process, we have drafted an MTSS handbook for faculty and staff, and we have updated the referral process for special education evaluation to align with the updated state rules. The work we have that looking ahead, to continue working on professional learning around inclusive, high impact teaching practices. The Ability Challenge gave us a tool to calibrate how we're writing IEPs. So looking to use that next year. We need to review the data from the pilot at Panorama and decide what our next steps are for special education progress monitoring to increase our alignment across schools. We want to finalize the MTSS handbook to have a fall rollout of that. And we are starting to look at our disproportionality data to monitor that our practices are equitable, or if they're not, to try to understand why. The fourth element, the equitable systems and resource management. So recommendations from the Ability Challenge were to develop district-wide expectations around schedules to make sure that we are providing opportunities for intervention, to clarify and update the district-wide continuum of services based on student needs, and to make sure that we are looking at allocating resources based on student need. So the work that we've done, the administrators engaged this year in workshops with the Ability Challenge around building understanding and building the continuum of services. Our school schedules have been developed to maximize how we use our human resources and ensure access to Tier 1 for all students with designated times for intervention, and Tier 2, which is the reteach of Tier 1. We hired social emotional learning professionals with our Idea B, with some of our Idea B money, to provide specialized instruction and functional skills based on the change in regulations. Special educators and interventionists are grouping students based on needs. So Act 173 allows us to work together in doing that. Special educators and instructional assistants have been assigned to buildings based on student needs. So it's not just looking at, I've always been at the high school, so therefore I'm at the high school, but it's really looking at the number of students with IEPs and where we need people to be. The principals have been doing a lot of work and leading a lot of work in professional learning around reading at the elementary and secondary level. And the SEL teams in each of the schools meet weekly to review student needs and identify what resources they require. Looking ahead, again, that regular time between special educators, interventionists, and SEL teams that I mentioned already. We are trying to figure out a way to have designated co-planning time with general ed teachers, special educators, and ML teachers built into schedules. So right now it's happening, but it's happening in pockets based on availability. And so we're looking to find a way to make sure that that is built into schedules so that we allow our teachers to have the time they need. And then we will also be talking about what we're doing with that time. We are continuing to build and refine our continuum of services within schools, and always going to continue to build our capacity to support students with the most significant needs. And lastly, element 5, meaningful family partnerships. The recommendations from the Ability Challenge were to provide training to teachers and administrators about operating with empathy and cultural competence, to create district expectations for family engagement, and to convene family advisory committee. So some of the work that we've done, Caregivers Handbook for Special Education was created last summer and is updated as needed. Mike and I did listening sessions with families of students with disabilities. We have changed our structure, so case managers loop with students for at least 2 years so that there's stability and consistency for students and families and case managers. We created a monthly progress note format because there are some families that were seeking information more frequently than quarterly reports. There is a district caregiver council, and we continue to work on aligning our practices across the schools. Looking ahead, we're going to continue to look for ways to authentically engage with families that historically have been marginalized, work on building our system capacity to address chronic absenteeism, because Nick can't do it all, although he does it pretty well, align reporting measures across schools, and continue to develop consistent systems for sharing individual student information with families. That's it.
Questions? No, I really appreciated how comprehensive that was. Brett?
We've paid for a lot of audits and stuff that, the facilities thing, the equity thing. We feel like the recommendations from this audit are really helping direct some change and moving things in the direction or helping that process?
Yeah, I do. I think the timing of it was interesting because we were also, a lot of us were new to the district. And so and it confirmed a lot of what we were already doing anyway, which was great, but it's nice to have that, okay, this is, you know, the right way. They've been great to work with this year. I think they've been able to provide some great structure for the administrators to think about special education. So yes, I would say yes, and we will continue to do it, to use this. And I think it fits in nicely with the equity audit, right? Because this is all part of equity. So, yeah. Panera is a great system, not for special education though.
Schedules have been improved to align tier 1 and tier 2 access, I guess. Is that true at the high school as well? I understand that at the high school, there are some special challenges because there are so many moving pieces.
Yeah, what you're referring to is more tier 3 with the remediation piece, and it's still a challenge at the high school. We're still trying to figure that out because a child who's a second grader could have remediation services if they need it every day, 5 days a week, right? With an expert. Whereas a high school, because of the green-white schedule and just the way the day is designed, it might be in the same time period as that second grader. It might be that they receive services in that way for 4 days, not 4 days of the week, but 4 days in a 3-month period, so we haven't figured that piece out. That's still a struggle. And I think it's a struggle for most high schools. What the high school has done a better job this year is using their Solon block better, which is more the tier 2 services of reteaching the prioritized standards. So there's callbacks. There's a system, I'm looking at Miriam, but there's a system to get called back where it's not necessarily a choice for kids. She's like, no, it's not actually. So they've done it. They've really focused in on that tier 2 reteach opportunity, and they've done a nice job, but the remediation is tricky in a high school.
Just as part of the same line of questioning, do the kids, I see in the newsletter, there are opportunities for tutoring, but it's kind of volunteer only. Do you guys feel like, is that like kids sign up for tutoring if they wish? I think that ability is available to high school students. In your experience, or if anyone knows, is that something people take advantage of?
Yeah, so one of the clubs at the high school, Club Action, which we were talking about earlier, because they run the awesome Race and Rally Against Racism. They also run the peer tutoring program here, which I can talk about because I tutor through that program. I don't know exactly how many students take advantage of that. I don't know if they collect those numbers, but I think for the most part, they try to keep it anonymous so students don't have to have other people know unless they want them to. But it's a great resource. I know lots of people have taken advantage of it. It's purely a volunteer system, and it's based on the work between the tutor and the tutee. So I don't, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, I think it helps a lot of students with their schoolwork. I mean, I've been tutoring people in chemistry all year, and it's worked out pretty good for me. The teachers who support it are great, and yeah, I think it helps a lot of people.
It's good to know. My son will be taking chemistry next year and may need a tutor. So just start naming your price.
So I just want to clarify something Libby said when she was talking about someone might only get services 4 times in 3 months. That's not students with IEP.
Oh, no, that's
Yes,
tier 3. That's a different thing. Yeah.
So
Thank you, Peggy Sue.
typically students with IEPs their services are written that in a 2-week period, they'll have this many days. And there are some students that we build their schedule so that they do have the service every day. So it just means that like maybe first period every day, they don't take another class. So just want to be clear.
Thank you for that clarification. That is important.
This was really for people that this Seems like there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of overlap because students with disabilities are in our classes and doing all the things. And so we want to make sure that they're accessible. So yes, the needs assessment looked at the experience of students with disabilities, but as we develop a system that will make things better for everyone, that includes our students with disabilities. It's a state requirement that has, I should have looked, I meant to look today. I think there are 10 different components, but it's really about ensuring that we are providing comprehensive education for our multilingual learners, which used to be called English language learners, but multilingual is more strength-based.
This might be a question more for you, Libby. I feel like sometimes we always just add things, and I don't know how teachers have enough time in the day to like participate in all these really good initiatives. Do you feel like the expectations laid out here are reasonable? Do you feel like staff are excited, or is this
In the Lao plan
thing?
or?
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
in
just
general.
now of like all of the various like recommendations and implementation of this. Like, is there time in the?
So I
State
think the important thing is that it's not one more thing. It is just getting better at what we're doing. And, what I try to say in Roots and Wings, now that I have the opportunity to say things frequently for people to, in theory, read, is that if we start by planning for students with disabilities and then go from there, everyone can access it, because there are lots of things that a student with a disability may need that someone with without a disability may also need. So if we can start there, then we are always going to be able to meet the needs of more students. But this isn't like a separate, like, now you have to do this. Like, the more that people can collaborate with others and do that, we're using everyone's expertise, as opposed to saying, teacher, go in your classroom and here are your 30 kids and figure it out all by yourself. Yes.
Chronic absenteeism piece that comes up a lot in these meetings, so about how we build system capacity to address chronic absenteeism for students with IEPs and 504s. Is that addressed? Is there anything you do to address that differently based on those students' needs?
So this is Nick's area of expertise, but I'll try. So if we have a student with an IEP, right, that's missing school, we certainly, like any student, want to try to understand why. And some of that is as simple as having an adult call to say, hey, why are you not here? Reaching out to the families to figure out what the barriers are for kids coming to school, and then seeing what we can do to support them to get rid of those barriers. And so students with IEPs or 504 plans have a case manager. So it's one more person that's kind of keeping track of them and seeing, is kind of on top of that. But it really is something that is across the school that we need to be just looking at. Like, what are our steps, formally or informally, that we're doing when kids are missing school to make sure that no one's just falling through the cracks. I think we definitely have work to continue to do, particularly at the high school, around engaging students when school is really hard. So we have, students with IEPs in high school is really hard. And so we do have kids that are just disengaged. And so Nick works really hard, and, the other staff are also working hard to try to figure out how to re-engage them in school. And I think that's where we look for more opportunities for flexible pathways, or thinking about other ways besides sitting in a class to earn your high school diploma.
That's great. I'm sure this has come up in meetings before. Are there higher rates of absenteeism, chronic absenteeism in students with 504s and IEPs than the broader school population?
I feel like Nick has said yes, but I would.
Yeah, we've studied that disproportionality
Yeah, we
data,
definitely have, yeah.
and there's a slightly higher, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Does it vary between 504s and IEPs?
We don't break it down like that. I suppose we could, but we haven't.
Right.
Kind of along the lines of Brett's first question, first question. In the needs assessment from last year, element 1 was the only one that we were rated as proficient, and the others were all fair. I'm curious, just sort of broad stroke, how you feel. I assume that we're not going backwards on any of them, But how do you feel just in that sort of broad, I know we're not getting into data, but the broad sort of stroke, proficiency, fair, emerging, that sort of thing for the 5 elements?
I think that I would say that we are doing a lot of great work. We have a lot of really great people, and we definitely are not going backwards. I haven't taken the time to look at the specific scores. I try to spend my time either in broad programming or in individual kid meetings. Those are my 2 places that I live. I think we have a lot of really great things happening. There's a ton of collaboration happening. We've done so much work this year around reading. That's been huge. And just seeing the professional, part of it is I don't have a lot also of like history, right? This is only my 2nd year. So, I've gotten no parent complaints this year, formal ones. I know, sorry. That's a lovely data point. Doesn't mean there won't be one tomorrow, but I feel like we have a really strong team and people are working really hard to make sure that kids are getting what they need. So. Yeah, here, yeah.
In the district?
Yeah.
You have accomplished a lot. I feel like you've been here a lot longer than that. That's surprising. Wow.
Did you hear that? You've accomplished a lot. Thanks, Peggy Sue. You're doing fantastic.
It all started because I was Libby Snelling partner.
We did a leadership program called Snelling together, and they paired us together because we are the direct opposite Myers-Briggs profiles. So they paired us together, and then it was like love at first sight.
That's right. She lured me here.
In element 1, one of the recommendations was develop a clear action plan.
Mhm.
And I know you mentioned the what is it, continuous improvement plan.
Mhm.
Are those how much overlap is there between this continuous improvement plan and the recommended action plan with timelines, owners, measurable goals, et cetera?
So the continuous improvement plan looks at the district as a whole. And then within that, some of what we're looking at with those goals is breaking down the information beyond, great, 75% of our students scored this, to like looking at that disproportionality data and the data, like what about students with disabilities? And we're looking at growth rates and trying to look, because by definition, students on IEPs, right, have something that is not on grade level. And so if we just look at grade level, then that's not really showing us if we are helping students grow. So we're looking at different measures to look at that. Yeah.
So is that it's partially getting us towards the action plan?
So the way that I see it, there's equity is like the big, what we need to do for every student. And then under that is our CIP, is our MTSS system, which is, and also I would say our MTSS, when I say systems in the S part, but anyway, that is where that action plan, I feel like, comes from, is really looking at what does our whole system look like for intervention? And then what are we doing specifically with students with disabilities? So yeah, I think that's the important thing, is for us to continue to understand how we all fit together, that we're not separate. Like special ed is not a separate thing. It is part of a bigger system. Students with disabilities are part of all of our system. And so, yes, we need to look at them and make sure that we are providing what they need and they're making the growth and we're setting them up for success. But we also don't want to pull them from all of the system stuff that we're doing.
And then element 2, one of the recommendations was developing a calendar for data analysis. And I know that some of the data collection systems are still being piloted, but are we anywhere closer on a calendar for cycles for data analysis that are recommended?
Yeah, so where this work is happening is with our common assessments that we're doing across the district. And then we're looking at that to determine what students need, the, intervention, those kind of things. And then, so yes, those happen. They're happening 3 times a year with our common formative assessments. And then in the
Well, they
smaller,
happen more than that. So the local assessment plan happens 3 times a year,
Yes,
which is
that's
common
correct.
across grade levels. And that is a published document that's on our website. That's been there for a long time. We've tweaked it this year, so it's a little bit different this year than it has been in the past after feedback from teachers. Around it being a little bit too much to alleviate some of it. But there's also the common formative assessment based on our priority standards. So those are the standards that we've chosen, for instance, in math for grade. I always go to grade 2 because I was a grade 2 teacher. Math for grade 2, saying these are the ones that all students will have access to. All students, this is what we can tell a parent. We're guaranteeing these standards. And so we have common formative assessments within a professional learning system or community of grade 2 teachers around those particular standards. But teachers don't have common formative assessments for every standard because kids would be here until they were about 24 years old if it was every standard. So we've had to choose. And so that's where the priority standards line up. And when you hear the term common formative assessment, that means it's a priority standard. And that all teachers have know that that standard needs to be taught. So what a big switch has been for our teachers is that we're saying we would never tell a teacher how to teach that priority standard. That's a teacher's expertise coming in. But we are saying you need to teach it this time, and you need to teach it at the same time as your colleagues are, so that you can come together to look at the data and look at which kids really knocked it out of the park, which kids need more support. How are you going to divide up the kids so that kids get that more support? And that's the piece that's really tricky because it's timing and all that kind of stuff. And it's really important. So that's where we have more to grow, just in terms of getting it right.
right. And so those calendars would be more grade based on the.
Or content if we're talking about high school.
Yeah.
So that's what that tricky part is what they're saying is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last question, the element 5, one of the recommendations is a family advisory committee. And I know that you've had listening sessions. Are there other initiatives to more formalize, like, I don't know if you would call it a family advisory committee, but something beyond listening sessions?
So we have a district caregiver council.
Yep.
That has had very few people join, but that we originally had talked about, do we do separate committees? And then it was like, okay, but all of our work needs to be together. And so that's the venue that we're looking to do that. And we would certainly encourage more parents to join that.
Tim, or I don't know, Lynn made it.
Doesn't look like it.
No. Thank you. That was super helpful. Now, and having these report backs and feedbacks are great, and just echoing what Jill said, you have done quite a bit in, I guess, a little less than 2 years.
Yeah.
She did just sign a 15-year contract.
Excellent. So I think we just have policy monitor and report because we did the student representative piece earlier. Do I have a motion to approve C12 prevention of sexual harassment as prohibited by Title 6?
9.
Sorry, I had Title 6 in my mind. And it's been a long week, so my Roman numeral number reading has slipped. Motion to approve that?
Move that we approve the policy monitoring report.
Do you have a second? Any discussion, questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? We approve that, and now I need a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of appointing a student rep for the, what was it, 2025, 24, 25. It's 2025 would be a long span. For the 2024, 25 school year, and they start earlier than that, don't they? They
Well,
start,
they come to the retreat
yeah.
whenever the board decides to, yeah.
We can invite people in, right? Like,
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
They don't, yeah, they can start appearing.
no, I'm saying to the executive session, right? So do we want Miriam, please ask the. student
Yeah, we can definitely invite Miriam and Alara.
And Alara to join.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
I move to go into executive session to discuss the selection of student representative to the board.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Great, so let's march down the room.